Shall we begin?
Let's begin now.
Hi everybody, it's Doreen, and I'm back today with something a little different. I wanted to make something special for my mother because it is going to be her 70th birthday this month, and I wanted to do a little something special for her, and I decided that I was going to make her a mini album. Now, as many of you know, I'm typically a card person, and I make all my cards, and I don't do a lot of mini albums because, as I've said previously, I don't take a lot of pictures. But I decided I was going to do one for my mother, so this is actually the third mini album that I've ever done, and I wanted to do it around a theme of something that my mother loves to do. And my mother loves to sew. She, when I was growing up, made all of my brother's clothes when we were little. So I decided to make her a mini album around the theme of what she likes to do. So what I used this time was I made my entire album using my Silhouette Cameo, or as I call it Erica. So this is my mini album, and what I've done is I've taken it and made it in the shape of a spool of thread. And this is my cover page, and I used the Lost and Found paper to make the cover, and I've added some trim around the edge, and this trim was actually off-white, and I took my Copic markers and colored it in my airbrush system and colored it in to make it the goldish color. And then I decided I wanted to use the dress form that comes on the paper, and I took some zebra tulle and made like a little skirt for the dress form, and I've added some of the Recollections flowers up here and then some bead trim around here. And then the other thing that I've done is I've added a flower here, and this is a Prima flower, and I took that and sprayed it again with the Copic marker, and then I've added a spray of butterflies, and this also came as a Recollection set. And then for my binding I used some more of the tulle that I used from the skirt. And then I have some charms along on the side, but I'll talk about those later. And then down here at the bottom, I've taken one of the charms that I picked up at Joann's, and it says the word imagine, and I took and used some rub and buff to give it that bronze color. And then I have some little flourish embellishments that I picked up at Joann's that are by Jolie. So I'm going to open up and move on to the next page. Now, my paper in the inside of my album comes from a paper pack that is by Paper Studios, and I don't have the name of it offhand, but I will put it somewhere within the video down here, maybe somewhere down here. And so this is the first page, and I've just taken some of the Prima flowers, and then I used my Silhouette, or Erica, to make a needle, and I added some bling at the tip, pens. I added some bling at the tip of the pens, and I've added some bling within the flowers. And then I've taken a needle that I cut out using the Silhouette, and I added that down here at the bottom to look like it's the spool of thread from the paper the needle is going through. And I'll bring that up so you can see it. So it's right there. And then I've taken one of my stamps and stamped out "Friendships are sewn one stitch at a time." And then up here at the top on this page, as well as on this page, I've used one of the, I believe this is a Martha Stewart punch. And then over here, what I've done is taken some of the Recollections trim and added along here. And since this page says threads, I just took some of the twine and kind of twirled it around and added some buttons. And then at the bottom here, I've stamped out "Sewing Mends the Soul." And up here I've taken a rubber stamp that I have and stamped it out using the vintage photo, and also stamped out a spool of thread. And I colored this in with my Bic Market pens. And I've also gone ahead and inked all of my edges using the vintage photo. So we'll move on to our next page. So now the next page, what I did was I went ahead and took a rubber stamp and stamped this image out, and then I colored it in using my Yasutomo paints. And I'm going to zoom in just a little bit more here. Okay. And then for my dress form, I used the Tim Holtz sewing room die and made out my dress form. And then once again, I added some tulle to make it have a little skirt. And down here at the bottom, I've stamped out, I'm not biased. And then up here, I've added a button and another one of the Recollections flowers that I've used the Yasutomo paints on. And then I've added some pearl trim to add across the dress form to look like a belt. And then down here, I've taken the spool of thread that comes with the dress form die and just put some thread around the spool and added a needle and ran the thread through the needle. So now on my next page, of course, I had to have a page with just some bling on it. So I picked up this. That's supposed to go right there, so let me move that. I've added this dress form that's made using some bling, and this is actually a Prima dress form, and I've stamped out a pattern piece right here and then a tape measure down here at the bottom. And I kind of was trying to go with the theme of the paper, which is an actual tape measure or a ruler. And up here I've added one of the Recollections flowers. And then this key flower actually came with this piece, so I just added that in there. And I took some of the trim and added this along the edge. And this trim I decided to leave the color that it was when I purchased it, rather than painting it with my Yasutomo, with my Copic markers. So, and then I have a little stamp down here that says, "Hymn your blessings with thanks." So now we'll move on to the next page. Now my next page, the paper is also from the Paper Studio pack. And what I've done is, this is actually a piece of fabric that is by Laura Lee or Lorelei. So what I did was I cut out the dress form off the fabric and I backed it onto some cardstock, and then I took and popped it up on some foam tape. And then right here I just added my little bling in the middle there. And then I've added some more of the Recollection. Actually, these are Prima flowers, or they might be Recollections. I was going back and forth between the two. And took some of the Recollections roses. Those for sure I know are Recollections. And I colored those with some of the Yasutomo paints. And then I've stamped out "Cute as a Button" right here. And I've added a little button. So now we'll move on to my next page. And my next page is actually some dress forms. And this is a Sizzix die. Or actually dresses. And it comes, I've taken and cut out a hanger. And I used the silhouette to cut this. Or I'm just going to say Erica. When I say Erica, I actually mean my silhouette Cameo. And I've cut that out, the hangers. And then I've inked the edges using the vintage photo. And I've added some more flowers. And then these flowers that are in the center, these are some of the Recollections flowers. And then up here at the top where I have the scissors, it says the word "create." This was also cut using Erica. And then I have some lace trim down here at the bottom. So when I bought the dresses, they were on some chipboard. And later on, I actually bought the Sizzix die, so you can interchange by cutting it out in chipboard and then putting your, taking some regular designer paper and running it through using the Sizzix die, and you can actually dress up the chipboard. Or you can just cut it like it is and don't do anything with it. So now, on my next page, I was kind of sticking to that theme of dress forms and dresses. I've got 2 more of the dresses that come with that Sizzix die, and I've taken both of them and some trim and added them to the dresses like so. And on this particular dress, I went ahead and added some ruffled lace that I've taken my Copic markers with and airbrushed again just lightly to bring in some blue. And then I've added some of the Sizzix, my favorite things flowers, rolled flowers that I created, and these were cut using that die, and then I just cut them out in cream color cardstock, and then I airbrushed them, I actually took my peacock feathers distress ink that I got from Skylar and made my rolled flowers. And then up here at the top I have the word create stuff, and it's on a pair of scissors, and this also was a cut image from the Silhouette website. I really like the Silhouette website because you can go out and just search for an image that you want and pay 99 cents. Whereas with my Cricut, I can buy a cartridge and only want one thing off the cartridge. I still enjoy using my Cricut and Gypsy, but I wanted to try to do something without using the Cricut at all and use my Silhouette. So now what I've done at the bottom here is I've stamped out 1 stitch at a time, and I've run it through or cut this out using another Spellbinders die. And then I've added 2 little roses. These are part of the Recollections roses. So now on my next page, what I've done is these are cut files that you can purchase at the Silhouette store. And I've cut out a pair of scissors and the pin cushion, which my mother's pin cushion does look like this. It looks like a tomato. And of course I had to add some bling in there somewhere. So on the tip of each pen, I've added some bling. And then I cut out a spool of thread. And then I took some thread and wound it around the spool, like so. And then up here at the top, my mother has one of the old Singer machines. It's the first sewing machine she ever got, and she still uses this machine to this day. Even though I have bought her a new one, she still likes this one. So, and it is this olive green, and it says Singer at the top. So I wanted to give her a remembrance of her sewing machine, so I just cut out the sewing machine from the Silhouette die and sprayed or inked it using, I believe this is a new color of the Tim Holtz Distress inks. If I remember the name, I'll put it within somewhere here in the video. And then I've stamped out I Heart Sewing, and I've inked the edges using the peacock feather. Or I'm sorry, this is the Salty Ocean or Salt Ocean. This is one of the new colors of the Distress ink by Tim Holtz. And then over here I've stamped out a zipper, and I kind of took my Yasutomo paints and went over it just to highlight the color. And the color is the same as this, the Salty Ocean. So okay, so we'll move on. So now with this page, what I did was I asked my mother to send me a picture of something she's made recently. And she made this little pantsuit set with the matching jacket. So I wanted this to look like it was a shop. So I took this particular Spellbinders die that is a window die, and I took some plastic, so there may be a little glare on there, and put that over the picture to make it look like you were looking into the window of a shop. And I titled it Rose's Dress Shop, because my mother's name is Rose, or we call her Rose. Her name is Rosetta, but we call her Rose, or her friends call her Rose. I still call her Mommy. And I added some pink flowers, and these are recollections, and these flowers are actually almost like polymer clay. So I decided I was going to use those up before I start making my own polymer clay roses. And then I've added some pearls along the side here, and then I've added some trim that I've had left over from this page. And at the bottom I've also stamped out Stitch with Love, and then I've added 2 more of the Recollections flowers. So now on my last page, before my back cover page, I went ahead and added this trim that I had, and this is some of the Recollections trim, and I've added a little rose bow over here in the corner, and this was actually an earring that I picked up at the dollar store, and I just took the post off the back and attached it to the corner here. And then up here I've added a button, and then I've also stamped out You're a Stitch. And then what I did was I decided I wanted to put something in between here, so I've made a library pocket, and this cut is actually from the Silhouette store, and I've stamped out this little stamp of these pattern. It looks like the old patterns when you first bought patterns in the store by Simplicity at the fabric store. So inside the library pocket, I took and stamped out some images. So I've stamped out this one, First Dress Form, and this is, I picked these up at Stamper's Best, and this one's, it doesn't come with the greetings. I stamped those separate, but it does come with the dress form, and I've taken it and stamped it and colored it in using the Yasutomo watercolor paints again, and it says So Cute and Handmade By. And then I kind of took a brad and put them together. This one is Stitch with Love, and this I actually colored in using my Tim Holtz distress markers, these right here, and I then went over it with the Yasutomo paint to give it the shimmer. Okay, and then the last one looks like this, and I've stamped Sewing Mends the Soul, and once again I used the Tim Holtz distress marker and then filled it in with the Yasutomo paint. I don't know if the camera's going to pick up the shimmer, but it really shines. I really like the way that came out. And actually after I finished this, I thought, my mother taught me to sew as well, so I'm a seamstress, and I think I might make myself one of these. So now for my last page, or my back cover, what I've done is I didn't want to take anything away from the paper that's on the back. So basically I just stamped out a woman sitting at a sewing machine, and then I stamped that pattern piece again, or that pattern stamp, and these were all stamped in the vintage photo. And then I added 2 of the Jolie trims or flourishes in the corner, and I took some rubber buff and just colored those in. And then of course at the bottom I put my stamp, created just for you by the butterfly, and then my name. And then as far as binding it together, I just used some of the twill that was left over from the skirt in the front. Now, the reason why I had to put this one and this one in the corner is because when I started doing my binding, I bound it on the wrong side. and I really wanted this to be my back cover. So I went back, bound it again, and then I thought, well, I need something to cover up those holes. So that's why I ended up putting this on this side, and then the two buttons on the corner here. So even though I made a mistake by punching the holes, I figured I could find some way to cover them up. So now the last thing I want to show for the mini album is my charms. So what I've done here is I've taken some scissors, and this was actually a cut from the Silhouette store, and I cut out maybe about 6 or 7 of these, maybe even more, and I glued them all together, and then I took them and used the rub and buff on top of the cardstock. And then once I did that and it was dry, I then took some Mod Podge just so I could make it so it would be stiff and hard and almost be like a charm. So that's what I did for the scissors. And I had this chain already I used for some necklace or something that I made, and this is what I had left over. So I attached the scissors, I added a eyelet up here at the top, and then I added this pen, and I added some little crystals on the bottom of the pen for charms. And then this right here was an actual charm that I picked up when I went to CHA last year, and it was actually black, and I took some rub and buff and colored it in bronze. And then I did the same thing for these charms. One says experience and the other one says passion, and I just took the rub and buff to get them that copper color. So that's it, everybody. This is my mini album that I've made for my mother for her 70th birthday. Now stay tuned, because I've made some other gifts for her that I want to share with you. Thanks for watching. Bye.